Welcome to All Workforce Matters. I'm Teresa Miele, host and chair of the Rutland Region Workforce Investment Board. I have a guest with us today all the way from Brattleboro. Welcome, Alex Beck.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the education and workforce specialist. I think I said that backwards,
That's
perhaps.
all right. It changes every day.
All right. For the Brattleboro Development Credit Corp, and there are a couple of more organizations that you're going to talk about today. And we are so excited that you're here. But you came to Rutland for a particular event, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, you did.
So what brought you to Rutland today?
So one of my many hats doing workforce development all throughout Windham County is the Southern Vermont Young Professionals Group. And in my work, I very quickly learned that the Rutland Young Professionals is doing everything right. So every time they invite me up, I seize that opportunity. And today was to talk about the summit, which is going to be October 15th at the Paramount Theater. I went last year and it was really incredible. They did a great job of making it fun and informative. So of course when they invited me to come back up for the kickoff this year, today, I seized that opportunity.
Well, great. Would that be a nice segue to talk about the young professionals in the Brattleboro area and
Sure.
what you all are doing there?
Yeah, so the young professionals, the Southern Vermont Young Professionals, which is all throughout Windham County, it's a workforce initiative. Not a lot of people directly understand how social networking can be a workforce development activity, but this is retention. You know, so if we're talking about cultivation, which is education, training, or recruitment, or retention, those are the three big things that we try and think about for workforce. And this is retention. You might land the job of your dreams in a small town in Vermont. If you don't have the community and the social engagement, the stuff that when you get home from work makes you be happy living here, you might move. And so it's this way to combat the young people leaving Vermont by providing community engagement activities, professional development activities, and fun. So recently we went to Adams Family Farm out in Wilmington, and we did horseback riding, and they have paintball, and that was really fun. We also learned about what else they do, and they have a great meat packing facility, and they sell meats of all different kinds. I had my first ostrich meat that I bought there, which was delicious. But what was really great was a couple weeks later, some friends of mine went to Williamsville Eatery, which is 30, 40 minutes from the farm, and reading the menu, they said, hey, it's Adams Family Farm. And so it was that depth of a relationship that they could get. You know, we didn't get them jobs, we didn't do anything special or very workforce oriented, but it's that deeper connection that the young professionals really tries to provide to get people to stay and enjoy living here. And then of course, when a new person comes, say, how do I make friends? They say, the young professionals. And that's, I think, very similar to what Rutland Young Professionals does as well.
It's very exciting to hear about these initiatives that really take something that it's almost the simple side of complexity and so often overlooked, to your point. But if you don't feel part of a community, then you're not likely to stay, or you're not likely to be very happy. So how enriching that is, not only for that individual, but also for the community and the businesses as well. What a wonderful idea, and thank you for being so involved in pushing that forward.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and seeing the employers support it, and that's really when you know you're onto something.
Right.
When they say, you know, I have the perfect person who's just going to be starting next week, let me plug them into this, and that's, you know, when you start feeling really part of the bigger community, not just community with a, you know, a lowercase c.
Sure.
Yes.
I have to say that when I learn about people who are moving to the community or new to the area, or even people who have been here for a while, the first thing that I say is, have you visited with, have you gotten a connection with the young professionals, and obviously the Rutland Young Professionals here, but they are first and foremost on my mind because they are so effective, and it's such an energizing group of people to belong to. So thank you for that in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what you do with regard to workforce specifically and how that happens in Brattleboro.
Sure. So we do have a WIB, and what our WIB does is really focuses on the Career Expo. which, because it's county-wide and our county is a bit diffuse in terms of population densities and businesses, it is really a full-time effort for them to pull all those strings together and do the Career Expo. We sit on the WIB there, and it's been a really great and exciting endeavor. It's our second year that I've been on it. We do a career social after the Career Expo for young professionals. So again, tying all the pieces together. And so beyond that, what the BDCC has really worked on is trying to work on a continuum of programming. So I've mentioned their young professionals already, and that's really post-college is where we focus on for that age demographic at least. We just recently started this fall what we're calling the Fast Tracks to Success program. And that's a high school career awareness program. It's a Department of Labor funded program, and it was started by meeting with all the guidance counselors in Windham County and saying, what's working well? What isn't working well? Every single teacher and guidance counselor said, we need better relationships with employers. So I did a survey with them, identified what they're looking for, and we'll be taking cohorts of students on site visits to different employers now. So we're focusing on manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality and tourism, and then entrepreneurism. So as many students who can find the time in their schedules from all 4 Windham County schools, we have funding for buses, we have the relationships with the businesses, and so we'll be bringing students to and from these site visits and then working with their personal learning plan and really helping them say, okay, if I want to end up at this local employer, what classes do I need to take? What classes might I not need to take? And then hopefully they'll say, all right, I know exactly the classes, I know how much it's going to cost me, and I know how much I can expect to make. So really helping deal with a college affordability component and also career planning long-term starting in high school. So that's the high school program, and that's really exciting. The second program that we run is the 6 College Collaborative Internship Program. And so there are 6 colleges in Windham County, Community College of Vermont, Vermont Technical College, Landmark College, Marlboro College, SIT Graduate Institute, and Union Institute and University. And so between all these schools, many of which are quite small, they don't all have the time and energy to forge all of these relationships with employers on their own. And also, if I'm an employer, I don't want 6 colleges calling me different times, for the same internship opportunity. So we kind of consolidated those efforts, and so the BDCC manages this internship program. So we have high school students, we have college students, and then we have the young professionals. And then kind of what runs underneath all of this is what we call our business cluster initiative, which is we convene employers by sector. So we convene all of our manufacturers and say, okay, what do you need? And how can we help provide those resources? And an interesting story is we heard fantastic things about the Certified Production Technician course that CCV does with GE here in Rutland.
That's right.
And what we said is, why does Rutland get this and we don't? So we worked with CCV to bring it down to Brattleboro and to Windham County, and it's been successful there. So that's just really identifying needs and the resources. We don't want to build something new if we don't have to. We would much rather be able to celebrate existing solutions. And so it's kind of a piecemeal set of programs that we're really hoping becomes really a center of excellence throughout the region of maybe we don't do this, but we know who does, and we'll send you their way when it's appropriate. So, which
is exactly the way that it should be working.
Absolutely.
That's excellent. So I'm going to put you on the spot. We didn't talk about this particular question that I'm going to ask.
Okay.
So one of the things that we run into frequently in manufacturing, and maybe not as much in healthcare, somewhat in hospitality, we can pick on manufacturing, is why would I want to work at a manufacturing plant? It really isn't that attractive. And people have the idea and kind of the mindset of what manufacturing used to be many, many years ago. I am one of those people that was a human resources person in manufacturing for a couple of different plants, and I love manufacturing.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing to help kind of shift that focus on, oh, this is really not a great place to be, to, you know what, there are some really cool jobs and well-paying jobs there.
Yep.
So
yeah, so
talk a little about that.
absolutely. We're struggling against that as well. I think our education system really focuses on a lot of skills and careers that are not relevant to manufacturing, and also that stigma. You know, the idea of it being a dangerous, unhealthy place. You're getting, flakes of metal in your eyeball. You name the stories. When in reality, manufacturing in Vermont is precision and advanced manufacturing. A story I like to try and tell students, and I think it does come down to exposure, is that they're not hiring a ton of astronauts from southern Vermont, but there are a number of organizations that have pieces of equipment flying in the space station, in telescopes, that are in space right now. And so manufacturing and advanced manufacturing is the closest that any of us may get to space in our entire lives. And some students buy that and some of them don't. What I think, the high school program is really trying to do is exposure. Walking through the facility itself, and it's saying, I thought I'd be doing this all day, punching holes in something, where in reality, you're programming a CNC machine. You are looking at a variety of systems and making sure, is this the most efficient way? Is this the most productive way we can be doing it? And then the last piece is really saying that just because you are doing a manufacturing job doesn't mean you can't be innovative or entrepreneurial. That if you can save your company that you're working for, 2 cents per product that you're moving, that could be it. I mean, that might be a game changer. And the skills and opportunities that you may be able to get through manufacturing can be unparalleled when you look at other industries. So exposure, showing the students and the parents and the teachers that this is not the manufacturing of the past, and that, at the very least, these are high wage, well-paying, and jobs that come with benefits. And so to break the stigma against, this is the way you can make a good living, and this is the way you just make a living, because it's different, and it's different here in southern Vermont especially.
Yes. Great. I'm really glad to hear you highlight that, because it makes so much sense, and I think that you're absolutely right. It's really working in some of those industry sectors to give people the kind of hands-on, up-close and personal experience, so that, that mindset that maybe many of us grew up with really changes, because there are some really great jobs in Vermont.
Yeah.
And I think that we don't celebrate that enough and highlight it enough.
Yeah. And one of my favorite stories was, through no fault of their own, our guidance counselors will never be able to know all of the jobs that
Absolutely.
exist. So one day, this group, we called it the Educators Workforce Committee, and they're the ones I surveyed. We brought them to a manufacturing facility, and a lot of them showed up in flip-flops and flowy clothing, and it was just very aware that, some of our educators don't know the details about what it takes to work someplace. Again, I don't think it's their responsibility to know every detail, because it's a lot of jobs and a lot of different stuff, but to the extent that we can expose everyone that's involved in education, from the students to the parents to the teachers, the better our expectations can be, and the more likely that we'll find that perfect fit for our workers.
Absolutely. And there will be some students who are going to go on and explore the world. There are a lot of our students who stay here, and they may go through some education here, or they may get training in the workforce. So those opportunities, I think, expanding them are just so vitally important to the success not only of our young people, but also of our businesses. And to your point, it also can grow into a situation where a young person may gain the experience to start their own company.
Yeah,
it's happened many times.
And especially given the population demographics that we have here in Vermont, being the second oldest state with average age in the nation, is that you might not even need to start your own business. You can start your path to owning a business now with an entry-level job, because we know that in 5 years, everyone's going to move up one.
That's right.
With natural retiring, those managers, they're going to need to be replaced, and then eventually the vice presidents, and then the presidents and the CEOs. So it might take a little bit longer than starting a business right now, but it's definitely a career path that not a lot of people think about. That,
yeah,
sure, I've got these technical skills, but what about throwing a few managerial skill sets here and there, or training within the institution. And that's, you can work some places here for 10 years and keep climbing the ladder and not be bored a single day of your life. But if you drive by that manufacturing facility and you never take a step inside, you'll probably keep driving by it.
That's right. So what other kinds of initiatives are going on in Brattleboro? Because you've talked about quite a number already. It's pretty exciting. You're busy.
Yeah, we're definitely very busy. One thing that I've really been able to appreciate is a separate program that the BDCC is stewarding right now is called the Ecovation Hub. And with the loss of Vermont Yankee, which is a nuclear power plant in Brattleboro, technically it's in Vernon, but it's right next door to us. We recognize that there's going to be significant job loss and we'll need to replace some of that. And so rather than investing in already existing industries, there's the emerging industry of green building products and services, even sustainable financing. So there's all these different possible business ideas that might come out of this initiative. And under all of it, I get to kind of sit in and listen and say, okay, let's say this business takes off. This idea, cross-laminated timber. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's a new building material that might be really popular here. So that gets me the opportunity to say, okay, who's already selling building materials here? Do they have someone who could actually sell this? Let's say they got a pallet of it tomorrow. Do they know how to sell it? Is the education there for this the workforce to support these new initiatives? And so that's just really exciting because it's not a program that I run or anything that I'm managing myself, but I get to sit and listen and kind of look to the horizon and see what's coming up. A similar thing, we're having a dairy summit in the coming weeks. I believe it's next Friday. And we'll be talking about what's the future, the current picture of dairy and the future picture of dairy and everything involved in it. And again, there's a million different moving parts of that industry, but workforce is always going to be important. So
Absolutely.
I get to sit in a lot of really exciting meetings about what's up and coming. And then just learning about what other people are doing. We are just starting our foray into the high schools, but there are programs like youth services that have been doing good work in that area for years already. So just learning, okay, what's worked and what hasn't worked, and just the ability to recognize we're all rowing in the same direction.
Absolutely. So, speaking of rowing in the same direction, you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
So you're here representing Brattleboro and what's going on in Brattleboro, and All Workforce Matters typically covers Rutland County. And you and I talked about why it would make sense and why there is a connection between Rutland and Brattleboro and probably the rest of Vermont. So speak to that a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, so I think there are some issues that all of Vermont are facing that we share. And I think it's aging population and retaining our students. And so in looking at that, Rutland has actually served as a great example for what we've been trying to develop in southern Vermont and in Brattleboro, especially the example of the CPT program. So a lot of the times when I come to Rutland, it's to learn about what's going well. You have major manufacturers like GE who can help kind of push the conversation along in certain directions. Your WIB is also very well established.
Thank you.
Of course, yeah. And so I see first and foremost the ability to learn from each other as very important. I hope I don't get too much flack saying this, but there are times when Montpelier provides solutions that are more relevant to Chittenden County than for the rest of Vermont. And not to say Chittenden County doesn't have its own workforce problems, but they are different in their nature. And so what I see what we both do is solving a lot of rural American problems and this weird divide between having a very structured and well-populated, more dense urban area, if you will, like Brattleboro town and Rutland town. But then you go a mile and a half in any direction and it's actually a rural community. And so it's really being able to identify where we're similar and to see where how we can share resources and move forward like that. And of course partnering, with the Rutland Young Professionals, their idea for the summit is the amount of energy and resources they put into that, they're sharing with us. You know, we try and support it as much as we can with volunteers and our time and ideas, but a lot of the time we're going up here to learn and to really play a part in the development that's happening, and they do as well. You know, I'm not sure when the date is on the calendar, but we know that we're having the RDC here down to Southern Vermont, to Windham and Bennington County, to talk about, you know, all working together, because when you don't is when you put a box around yourself, you know, that's where resources stop flowing, and that's where ideas stop flowing. And I think it's a real commitment from the BDCC to say, okay, sure, we're in Brattleboro and we serve Windham County, but all ships rise with the tide, as
Absolutely.
they say. So that's one of the reasons why we come up here, and it's always great. You know, I always really appreciate learning.
Well, it makes so much sense. We're such a small state and such a small community, and you really almost can't go other places in Vermont without meeting somebody that you know or that isn't connected to someone. So it makes so much sense that we, being such a small and limited with regard to our resources, that we're going to maximize the resources that we do have, and that really has to do with us as individuals and the partnerships that we can form. So I really appreciate that you traveled up to Vermont, or to Rutland, Vermont, and that you took time to come on the program and talk a little bit more of that. So what other kinds of things did you want to be sure to tell folks about Brattleboro and what's going on? Because this, I have to say, sorry to interrupt, I have to say that sometimes when people think about Brattleboro, which I've spent some time in Brattleboro several times, is such a really interesting and exciting community. Folks often don't think about that. They think of, oh, little tiny Brattleboro.
Yeah, and so it is unique and interesting. I think we have a very strong creative economy, and a really strong emphasis on the arts and culture and the role that plays in our town. And then similarly, that we have major manufacturers, and that plays a really interesting role that I'm always excited to continue exploring. But I think especially with things like the creative economy, what we're seeing now is fantastic artists and fantastic people who have great ideas. And there's a bit of a gap in some of the other skills that will take their enterprise to a business. So there's absolutely no doubt, if you're in Brattleboro on a Friday night, the first Friday of the month, it's called Gallery Walk, and all of the stores have some sort of art thing that you can go place to place. So you can immediately see that the importance that art has in the economy. But the connection between being an artist and driving the economy is something I'm really interested in exploring. So what skills are stopping this person from going global or national with their art? And it might just be business acumen. Or it might be access to resources. It could be just a little bit of budgeting help. And when you look at, and this is a good segue into what the 6 colleges does a bit, is that when you look at any of those 6 colleges, they each do something specific incredibly well. But if you look at, for instance, Marlborough College, it provides a very different kind of education than Vermont Technical College. And I would argue that the best education for whether you're an artist or a manufacturer is a little bit of everything. You know, make sure you have those critical thinking skills and those writing skills that Marlborough is so known for, but also some technical skills that the Vermont Technical College is known for. And so when you look at a holistic community and the needs of that, it kind of makes a bit more sense to say, let's all pull together and find some solutions, and business does not need to come at the expense of the arts or at the expense of culture, and vice versa. And so that's a really great cultural, political conversation I get to be a part of. And then looking, of course, at the role that the Paramount Theater has played in economic development here in Rutland, is something, again, that the Latches Theater is could almost be a sister theater in Brattleboro in terms of, sure, they play movies and they do other, host events, but the fact that it's part of the community and the economy and really helps drive it is unique to our small towns. And you know, when movie theaters in most big cities, like, who cares? You know, you drive by them and you don't think twice. And so it's just another example of some unique stuff going on. And you know, we have, again, our manufacturers are doing some really incredible stuff. You know, GS Precision has really been a community leader, and their expansion in Brattleboro is really exceptional. Chroma Technology is one of those companies that has filters in space. You know, it's an optical filter, and you know, I don't understand what they do, but they're an employee-owned company, and I know that the people who work there are quite happy, and they are incredibly intelligent, and they are providing some really fantastic technological solutions to some unique problems. And so it's not where you would assume these places exist, but they exist there because of this unique quality of life that I think it's kind of why we're all here in Vermont.
It really is amazing when we think about the opportunities that exist in Vermont that are kind of tucked away, and particularly with regard to manufacturing, because I think that we don't realize how many manufacturers that are here, even the smaller manufacturers that produce such incredible products. It's really, I've gone to the Manufacturing Expo a couple of times, and it's just amazing, and that's just a small subset of the manufacturers throughout the state. So,
and again, I think one thing, maybe the only thing that all manufacturers have in common is the building that they usually like to work in is the biggest square box that they could find. And that's the only drawback, is if you can get through that front door, you'll realize how different and special and awesome each one of them are. But if you're a kid driving to school or a parent, you see, okay, there's just another big box with the word on it. And so it's almost like a treasure hunt to say, what are these people actually doing?
Yes, I would agree. One of the things that you had wanted to be sure to touch on is how people can find out more information relative to what you discussed today. Are there websites and so forth that they can visit?
Yep. So for our website that the BDCC is www.brattleborodevelopment.com, and that's just for any inquiries about any of the stuff that we do. The 6 College Collaborative Internship Program, you can find either internship listings, so if you're a student, it's eligible to any student here in Rutland or anywhere. You can go to www.6colleges.com. Unfortunately, we don't have employers outside of Windham County, but there's always opportunities to collaborate in other ways. And then our Young Professionals group, which is, we're on Facebook and Twitter, so it's facebook.com/SoVTYP, so Southern Vermont Young Professionals, that acronym or abbreviation. And then also on Twitter is @SoVTYP. And I believe my contact information is also up there as well, and so you can always reach out to me for any questions about that.
We have just about a minute or so left, and I'm wondering if there's anything that you didn't get a chance to touch on that's important for sharing with our audience.
Not that I can think of. If anything, I would want to reiterate that we're all facing a lot of similar issues, and working together, in my opinion, has strengthened all of my programs. You know, our Fast Tracks program is very similar to TIPS. Our internship program is similar to a lot of the great work that the state colleges and Castleton is doing here. And the young professionals, it's, you know, when I came up last year, I said, how'd you do this? They said, we have a board. I said, I know what I'm doing when I get home. And so we started a board. So it's the sharing and collaboration is really the way to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by. And I'm just going to remind our viewing audience that we appreciate them joining us, and all workforce matters.